Hang on, Rick, you want to come on over with you?
We should be good on the recording.
Okay. This evening, okay. This evening, we'd like to introduce Rick Strobaugh and also mention Debra Dorothy. Both of them had taken a trip this last spring to Iceland.
Yeah.
And they're going to share with you their experiences, why they were there in Iceland, and also share with some wonderful images that they took. Rick and Deborah are both very accomplished photographers, and they have won best shows in our competitions over the years, but they're just extremely good photographers, as well as willing to share their information and knowledge with other members. So I'd like to introduce Rick Strobaugh now, and Deborah might chime in from time to time.
Okay, I don't know if you wanted to turn the lights off or anything like that to go along, but otherwise, a lot to cover here. Debbie had first got together and put together kind of an idea on taking a trip to Iceland, put it out through the camera club, and myself, I joined also on it. So it was a pretty cool trip. It was one of my bucket list places to go. And yeah. So I'm going to give you some ideas on planning an Iceland trip, your bucket list Iceland trip. First off, there's a lot to plan. I mean, Iceland isn't like driving to Arizona or something like that. There's a lot of planning, a lot involved. First off, the international airport is Keflavik, and that's about 25 minutes from the capital of Reykjavik. Now, I came up with a theory on how they came up with the names for streets and towns and stuff like that when we were there. And I think it kind of like, you know, the game Scrabble. I think people would take a couple handfuls of the letters, throw them down, and put them in a line, and then that would be the name of whatever they were naming. Because some of this stuff was really weird spelling. Doesn't make a sense a lot. So one of the first things you want to do is make sure your passport is updated. Make sure it's not going to expire before your trip is over or while you're there or anything like that. And it does take some time. It's not something you just go down and get done in a day or two. You also got to have an international driver's license if you're going to be driving, or even if you're going to be renting a car. I was able to just go down to AAA, processed it in about 20 minutes, took my photo, gave me my international driver's license. I said your passport update can take a month or longer. Getting a brand new passport, if you don't already have one, can take even longer. So if you're looking at doing something like this, make sure you start well ahead of time on your planning stage. Also arrange for a car rental beforehand. You can fly into the airport and have the rental company meet you there, or you meet there and then drive to their office nearby. The nearest town is probably about a 45 minute drive away. So you want to get this all done beforehand, arranged. And make sure your rental car has GPS. We decided we wouldn't probably need GPS because we had our phones, but there are several times on the trip where all of a sudden the GPS on the phone wasn't working. And we had several times that we were driving all around back and forth in a town trying to find a hotel, a store, or somewhere where we could tie into their internet and find out where we were going. This is the capital itself, city of Reykjavik. And most of the buildings in these towns are, 4, 5, 6-story tall buildings. And we didn't know about that church off in the background there. It's a huge church. We never got around to photographing it other than from like this. But it is interesting going to some of these towns. The volcano erupted the day before we got there. We drove right past the area where we could see the smoke coming up from it. It wasn't one of those where it's blowing stuff way up in the atmosphere. A lot of those stuff right there is not the smoke from the volcano, it's clouds. But they've had two more since then. Even if they've recently evacuated a town of 20,000 people because of the volcanic activity and the lava flowing through the area. You got to remember, Iceland is a volcano area. That's all there is volcanic rock. Why we chose Iceland Photo Tours, that's the name of the group we chose. They try to employ mostly local tour guides. And they also take us to parts of Iceland that many other tours avoid because of the dangerous road terrain. When you go into the center terrain area of Iceland, it's like driving on the moon or Mars, something like that, a totally different area. The price was really reasonable, $7,900 for 13 days. So yeah, it is. I've seen 7 or 8 day trips that are that same price or right in that same area. So it's very reasonable. Like I said, internet, if you're traveling on your own, internet is not always available. On your phones, you got to pay extra for the international phone internet. But if you're at a hotel, usually you can connect to the internet in the hotel for no cost. But if you're wanting internet the whole time while you're out and about and stuff like that, you're going to have to pay extra and make those arrangements before you go. You're traveling on your own, really have to do, like I said, extensive research on locations, how to get to them beforehand, and have a solid plan and a map. I can't stress that enough. There's a lot of stuff to do, and you can't just sort of drive around and hope to come across stuff. You got to make plans ahead of time. There is one main road that goes all the way around the island. That's the Ring Road. It's a very narrow 2-lane raised roadway. It's raised because with it being the only road between towns and around the island, they can't afford to have in the spring when the snow starts melting to have roads covered with water. If that happens, it totally shuts down their complete transportation of everything. The maximum speed limit is 90 kilometers per hour, which is about 55 miles per hour. And one thing over there, most people are at 55 miles an hour. You didn't see people racing up and down the roads like out on the freeways here, or, I mean, they're doing 55 in residential neighborhoods around here. Your rental vehicle should be raised 4x4. Anytime you're driving some of these areas that you want to get to and stuff like that, you're crossing streams, you're crossing rivers, things like that. They're not very deep because, again, with volcanic rock, you don't get much erosion. So most of them are very shallow streams and rivers, maybe a foot. I think maybe the deepest we would came across maybe 18 inches or something like that. But it's all solid volcanic rock. Towns are often an hour, hour and a half apart. Not like around here where you go to one town and another and you don't know when you've left one and gone to the other. They're very scattered, and they do have in between the towns small 7-Eleven, Circle K type stores with food, gasoline, other stuff that you're going to have to need and get. Gas, when we were there, was over $8 a gallon. Food is expensive everywhere. A typical McDonald's single patty hamburger with a couple of slices of lettuce and a slice of tomato with a little bit of French fries is about $25 to $26. Yeah. And that's not with a drink. If you want a drink, you can order a 8-ounce soda for $6 to $8. All of our breakfasts were included in our tour, except for 2 dinners. Our dinners weren't. And most of the hotels, the restaurants were really nice. And most of them were buffet style. So breakfast, you had buffet style and all the food you could eat, all sorts of stuff, choices in food. And the dinners, same thing. Every once in a while, some of the hotels had where you could order a specific type of meal, but they also had buffets. And again, I mean, you may have fresh salmon, fresh cod, cooked or uncooked. Just lots of choices, but the buffet for dinner was usually $55 to $70. So you might wonder, why is stuff so expensive? Well, I imagine in the near future, not too long in the future, we're going to see this same situation here in the US because their minimum wage is $40 an hour. Yeah. So when all these people are going on strike around here and everything, give us more, give us more, give us more, you can see the future in matching with Iceland. People got to make money. The business has got to make money. So they're paying out $40 an hour to everybody that works there, minimum wage. That's why everything's a lot more expensive. This is a photo of the roadway. And I said, I don't think we came across once where we had any traffic issues. There's not many places to pull off the road because it is raised. Driveways or different things like that every once in a while to have where you can pull off. But especially if you get a big 18-wheeler truck or a big motorhome, they take up a good part of that entire other lane. So as I said, traffic wasn't an issue. Speed, traveling, most people are 55, 60 mile an hour in that area. Continuing on your own. Now, I know some people like Wayne, they went and they just wanted to camp, do all this stuff on their own. You can rent all the camping gear, everything you may need. Again, have a raised 4x4 vehicle to get some of the camping locations. Especially if you're trying to get off the main roadway, you may be on dirt roads, or not really dirt, but rock and gravel. But you can rent sleeping bags, tents, cook stoves, eating utensils, have water bottles, any of that, to make all those arrangements before you go over there. Don't get there and then start trying to put stuff together. One way Wayne was able to save money, I know when I go backpacking up in the mountains, we take the backpacking meals with us. So all you got to do is boil up some water, put in there, let it sit for a few minutes, and you got yourself a meal. A lot less expensive. You can, again, purchase food at these little grocery stores in towns or the little 7-Eleven type places, but again, they're going to be expensive. Again, doing research. You can't just go up and camp anywhere out there. You got to find out where you're going to be allowed to camp. Best probably not to try to do it in the winter because of winter conditions. You may be able to get into it, you may not be able to get into where you want to go. Storms during the summer and winter may cause problems. Have an alternative strategy, something else. If storm's going to shut you down someplace, have something else that you can turn to. Reasons for a raised 4x4. Here's one of the rivers that you had to cross. And it's literally, you just drive across the river. And it's the road coming in from one side, and you meet up the road on the other side. That was a picture of our travel band that we had. That was Alan, one of the guys in our group. Going back down, we'd park somewhere. And this is all in the interior area, and it's just a rock gravel roadway, one lane, going all through the entire interior. If you came across somebody the other direction, somebody pulled off to the side and the other person went by, or one or the other. But it's just one lane, rock, gravel, rattling, shaking the entire time that you're driving. There's another picture of that gravel volcanic rock road, and you're going through the entire countryside out there, up through mountains, across the vistas. Again, there's only one road. That's why the central area is only open 3 months out of the year. This is the first city that we came into, city of Reykjavik or Keflavik. And we wound up staying just across the bay in an Airbnb, and we were able to go out and walk around to the other side of the bay and shoot photos. We were very lucky. We were checking the weather for 2 weeks before we went, and it was raining every day. Every day it was raining. So we lucked out, we got there, and I think one evening or something like that, we had a little bit of rain, and that was about it. So we really lucked out. And we had clouds most of the time. Had a few days where it's kind of blue, kind of scattered clouds and stuff, but we had some really good luck in the way of weather. This was a cabin we stayed at when we were on our own traveling around. And again, these places are very Spartan. Just had a nice comfortable couch for me to sleep on, and very small places. They don't have, they're not big mansions. Using a tour group. That's kind of the best way to go if you really want to be able to go and not have to worry about a lot of stuff. There are many options in country, out of country companies for varying numbers of days. I've seen them as much as 5 days. I think 13 days is one of the longest sessions that we went. But huge amount of difference in money, places they go to, things they do, what they cover. Ours covered the hotels, covered our breakfast every day, and I said two dinners, first dinner and the last dinner.
Rick, question from the Zoom. What time of year did you go?
We went in July. So basically their summer. And that was a great time to go. That was really nice. Again, $7,900, including hotel rooms, breakfast, 2 dinners. Tour covered a good section of the ring road. We didn't go all the way around the island on the ring road, but we covered a good part of it. And the volcanic interior. If you get to go on one of these things, and a lot of places don't take you to the interior, just because there's a lot involved in it. You really, like I said, the vehicle we had was a raised 4x4, big tire travel van, and there were only 5 of us in there. So it left us a lot of room for all of our gear and everything else like that. But it was definitely a nice way to go. And the 5 of us, there were 2 ladies from Australia, the other guy from San Francisco, and Debbie and I. And we got to be good friends. Everybody got along real well and had a great time. The driver was from Iceland and the guide from Malta. Of course, it does not cover airline flights. You want to make those arrangements. We actually flew from Phoenix up to Seattle, and then from Seattle all the way into Iceland. We used Airbnb and Vrbo for rooms before and after. We got there so before, and then stayed 3 days after, doing our own traveling around, visiting places that maybe we wanted to see a second time or something like that. And I said the rooms are very small, Spartan, not a whole lot to them. These hotels are very nice hotels, but the more rooms they have, the more money they make. And so rooms are very small. You might have the bed, a TV and a desk, and that's it. The shower is usually is a stand-up shower in the bathroom, and maybe about 30 inches by 30 inches. And the Airbnbs we're averaging about $250 a night. Could, like I say, could be in town or out in the countryside. No air conditioning in any hotels or any place. Kind of like living up north in the United States. People don't know what air conditioning is. They have no need for it. This is one of the tour cabins we stayed in. I got real lucky in the fact that there were supposed to be two other people, husband and wife, on our trip. But due to flight cancellation, they didn't make it. So they were able to get some of their money back in the way of rooms and stuff like that. I had signed up to be able to share a room. It's less expensive if you're willing to share. More expensive if you want a room by yourself every night. Fortunately, when these people didn't show up, I was able to use the room that would have been assigned to them on a number of different occasions. So that worked out pretty nice. But this is another one that's just on a tour, just out in the country. So on all these places, like I said, had really nice restaurants. There's another up on the top, kind of the right there is where our hotel was. In churches, you find churches all over the place. Every little community has a church. But this was, again, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, just out in the countryside, big pond area. And looking across from the hotel was this. So we were able to go out walking around through this area, shooting pictures. We did see some swans out there swimming around. But lots of water everywhere out here. And really green along the shorelines. Along the coast, nice and green, especially when they had all that rain before we got there. You could even go as part of a cruise. They have cruises that'll stop in and out of places in Iceland and probably Greenland and around different places. Now, you're going to be a lot more restricted on where you can go if you're going on a cruise. You usually on a cruise, they pull in a port, you can explore that town there, and then that's about it. Not a whole lot other than that. But again, it's a nice way to go around the island and see from the ocean sides. Time of year for traveling, summer. I said that's when we went. We spent a little over 2 weeks in July. And of course, they're on the same season as us, but they are much north from us. So when we were there, it never got completely dark at night. Sunset was 11:30, 11:40 at night. The rest of the time, the sun would go down, and it'd be like dusk, but not completely dark. So you couldn't see stars, you couldn't see northern lights, anything like that. When it does rain a lot during the summer. They get strong winds. This is an island out in the middle of the ocean. Wind currents coming through, there's nothing to stop them. Have a rain jacket, pants, cap, layers of clothing. I had a few times, I took a pair of shorts with me in my luggage. I never had a thought in the world of putting them on. I was wearing my Levi's. There were times that I would also put my wind pants on. I'd have my jacket on. I'd put my wind jacket on with the hood. I had gloves, and still my hands were cold, my feet were freezing. The winds, like I say, are just blowing through. Another thing, be real careful with when you're shooting out that with a tripod. You got such strong winds, you got to keep your hand on your tripod. It's real easy for it to suddenly be blown over. That's the next line right here. Temperatures in the 40s to the high 50s. Which isn't bad. I mean, a light jacket will be usually good enough for you. But you throw 60, 70 mile an hour winds on top of that, and it'll just cut right through you. That's why I see even wind pants will keep you a lot warmer, keep that wind from blasting through you. Iceland is made up of a lot of glaciers. So they, especially in the summer, they've got the melt starts making waterfalls, streams, rivers everywhere, all over the place. We're seeing streams, rivers, waterfalls, little waterfalls, huge, huge, big waterfalls. Not a lot of wildlife. I mean, they had the Arctic terns. We had one of the first days we got there, Debbie was out shooting in an area with some Arctic terns for about an hour. And these terns were so PO'd at her. I mean, they were coming down, they were dive bombing her. Fortunately, she had a hat on because they were hitting her in the head. They also have puffins, a few places. Sheep we found along the coastline, out running loose. They're in sort of herds, but they're pretty scattered. Owls, there's supposed to be some, we never saw any. We saw the swans at that one big lake. And then the horses, there's one area up the north west part of the island that's more horse country. Saw a bunch of them. Now the interior is only open for about 3 months during the summer. The rest of the time it is closed. You can't get out there. Nobody lives out there. There's no hotels. There's nothing out there for people to live and survive. It is just covered in ice and glacier, and except for those 3 months. And it's just volcanic mountains and valleys. You're up and down that one little lane road, just vibrating and shaking all over the place, from place to place. Now, there are lots of waterfalls and rivers. We'll be driving along, shaking all over, up to the hills, over a mountain and down, come around a corner, and all of a sudden, bam, right in front of us, great big, huge waterfall. Just seems to come out of nowhere. And with us, especially with the 5 of us, we always had plenty of time to go out and explore, shoot from all different angles and different locations, hiking around the location that we were shooting at, or if we came across someplace, again, why it's kind of nice with certain groups. If we as a group say, hello, hey, can we stop and shoot this right here? The guy, yeah, sure, okay. And we'd pull over and stop and shoot something. I said, everybody got along great. We were able to really work what we wanted. Out in that interior, there's no life at all other than this spongy moss that grows in the area wherever there's water or water vapor and stuff like that. I mean, there's not a bird, there's not a lizard, there's not a tree, nothing. Maybe a couple of sprouts of grass here and there. But most of all, just that spongy moss and nothing else. Oh, actually, it's very scenic in there. I mean, you're traveling, right? It's like you suddenly went. The question was, if you didn't hear, is why we decided to go through there. Well, it was part of the tour to start with, so it wasn't really our decision, but it's something that I would have definitely, without a doubt in the world, have wanted to do. After doing it, I wouldn't have said, nah, I could have skipped that. It was probably the most interesting part of the whole trip. The waterfalls we came across, the mountains, the sheer volcanic area and stuff like that you're going through were just so scenic, so pretty. And the mountains, they weren't like these mountains up here in San Bernardino, where they're kind of round and dirt, not much to them. These were all volcanic rock mountains, and it had a lot of color to them. The chemicals and everything that's in the volcanic rock, just really the oranges and the greens and stuff like that was just really pretty. So yeah, if you're going, I would suggest definitely getting a tour that takes you into the interior. Yeah.
Sun stayed up all the time, for the most part.
Uh-huh.
What were your days like? You know, what time did you get up in the morning? What time did you finally decide, okay, this is enough, and go to bed?
Okay, the question was, with the daylight most of the time, what time were we out shooting? What time we were doing stuff? We were usually meeting at the restaurant for breakfast, 8:30, 9 o'clock or so in the morning, eating breakfast and then going from there. And that gave people plenty of time to sleep. And we were out several times shooting sunsets at 11:30, 11:45 at night, and not getting back to our hotel after midnight. And it was still daylight. So that's one of the advantages of going during the summer is you can shoot 24 hours a day if you really want. There's always, and with the sun at a lower angle to start with, it's not straight up over you, so you're getting straight down bright sunlight on areas. You're getting a lot of really nice lighting all day long. And there's just so much to do out there, and there's so much shooting. A lot of times we'd get back to hotels or whatever, and we'd go out, well, like that one big lake area I was showing. We got the hotel, ate everything like that, and we're out shooting pictures till late at night.
Yes.
'Cause
Sorry,
you
do you have any pictures of these waterfalls and things you're telling
the
us about?
hotels for the interior at the edges of them. There's none inside. Again, it's only open 3 months out of the year. There are some backpacking trailheads out there where people go out, they camp and backpack through the mountains. Kind of like when we go up here and we go to Lone Pine and then hike Mount Whitney or something like that. They do have, that's one of the big things they do is backpacking through the mountains. There's sunset at 11:35 at night. And you see the sun's just getting ready to go down. That's right outside the capital, Reykjavik. We're at our hotel and we walked about a mile or so down to this sculpture here to shoot pictures of it.
I think that's the Viking monument.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty neat, especially at sunset. Now, a lot of time when you're driving along the ring road, on the interior side of the island, it's a lot of cliff area. Again, it's all volcanoes that have erupted and they don't wear down fast at all. So, and these glaciers are way back up in there. So you got waterfalls all over the place. But all along there, you've got these farms. Some are small farms, some are larger farms. And they got the hay fields out there where they'll be growing hay for their wildlife and stuff like that. And you're seeing constantly as you go along. And what seemed to be kind of a common thing were red roofs and white walls on the buildings. But yeah, all along, waterfall after waterfall. If you imagine living here and having that big old waterfall in your backyard. Now, one thing I did notice, I remember before going to Iceland, it was one of those things that, you know, they don't have many trees in Iceland. And they don't. But we would see every once in a while, you especially don't see forests, except for every once in a while, you'd see a big, huge, maybe 4 or 5 acre, very closely grown together pine forest. And a lot of times they're on the uphill side from a farm. So what do you think that's for? Snow. It's an avalanche break. They get a lot of snow. You put those forest up there, you get an avalanche, that forest is going to block the snow and keep it from washing your house away. So it's, you know, pretty smart.
By
Yeah.
the way, Rick, the trees there, they only grow about an inch in height a year.
Yeah, they don't grow very fast. Because again, yeah, it's not dirt with a bunch of food in it and chemicals and stuff like that. It's volcanic rock and gravel. It's one of the nice things, they're in a current right there where the current comes up from the south. That's why it doesn't get it quite as cold in the winter as you would think, because they got that southern current comes up along the eastern coast of the U.S. and then up through Iceland and Greenland. So it does, even in the winter, keep it a little bit warmer. But it does get a lot of rain. And I say for us in the middle of July, is in 40s and 50s. May have gotten up to maybe 60 a day or two, and that's about it. Very comfortable temperature. Every town has a church. Church is very well known back there. Every town has its church.
state church in Iceland is the Lutheran Church,
Uh-huh.
but you know that.
Oh, okay, yeah, the Lutheran Church.
Fundamental church in
Yeah. There's this one, Hofskirche Church in 1884. You want something real funny to listen to on your GPS when we were traveling around, and it'd be telling, take the next right on Knickerbocker Street. I mean, it literally looked like a whole jumble of Scrabble letters. There's another one that's the late 1600s, the Farkirche Church. And a lot of the old buildings and churches, buildings, homes, stuff back in that time, again, because they don't have a big area of lumber and stuff around there and didn't for eons. A lot of their roofing, the siding and everything like that is made out of sod. So it also insulates. So it's serving two purposes, plus it's a lot easier to take care of. There's another big church in one of the other towns. This is Villiers Museum. And this is very interesting. As you see, they got the sod ceilings, roof and walls and stuff like that. But you go in the doors of these buildings and all through inside, they're all connected. They actually have hallways that are finished off, wood walls, everything like that. So it's like being in a regular house. They're all finished inside. They got windows in the back, things like that. You have light, but it's like walking into a regular house. There it is from the back. So you can see they're pretty big and a bunch of different people living in there, and all, most of them interconnected to each other. Interesting place to go. Volcanic interior, I say it's volcanic rock. It's not even dirt, it is rock. Rock, gravel, nothing smooth, nothing at all out there. But as you see, these little yellow pillars, they're telling where the people to drive to get to the glacier there in the background. Glaciers all over the place. There's another valley, nice waterfall going up the stream up the valley there. Another one. The rivers just, like I said, they're very shallow rivers because you can't erode, the water cannot erode the rock. But once it starts melting and everything, it's just amazing amount of water all over the place. There's a real good kind of an idea what the whole area out there looked like. And you see the one-lane road just going off into the horizon. Just rock, 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 and more rock everywhere, along with water. There's another one, a glacier nearby, putting all this water down in there. It just doesn't erode away. It just stays rock hard all the time. There's a place where somehow a couple of those sprouts of grass came up. But it's just, you know, big pieces of rock and little pieces of rock. Now you see, this is more recent volcanic activity, lava flow. As you see on there, you can see the spongy moss. It was real easy to walk on and climb around on because it's like walking on carpet. But it could go for a mile or two or 20 or 30 acres. It just piles of this volcanic rock. And again, the mountains in the background, it had such nice color, and they're all just really, really jagged, worn mountains. Camera equipment. I would suggest, if at all possible, even if you got to rent one, carry a backup camera. One of the ladies from Australia had issues with her camera, and between Debbie and I, we were able to give her equipment. I had a backup, Debbie had her backup, and lenses, and she was able to use those when she needed to. But yeah, you don't want to get out there and have something happen to your camera. It'd be something as simple as blowing over and breaking, or just something not working for some reason. Spare batteries, lots of batteries. Because again, especially in the summer, you may be shooting out for hours and hours and hours at a time. And it's your one trip there. So you're not just shooting 1 or 2 shots every location. You're shooting every composition you can think of. So you sure don't want to get back, oh, wow, I wish I'd shot this different. I was using every possible where. Spare memory cards. I had a 128 gigabyte card, and that just barely got me through. I already knew Debbie had some extras I could borrow if I needed, but I was able to get by on the 128 gigabyte. And I think that was over 2,500 pictures or so, 2,600 pictures. Also, for all of you electronics, the electrical plug-ins for Iceland are different than ours. You have to have an adapter. So you can plug into the adapter and then plug it into their wall. You don't take the adapter, you're going to have dead everything.
Rick, most of the countries throughout the world are running off of 220 rather than 110.
Yeah.
So that's not just Iceland, that's a lot of other countries.
Yeah.
You're thinking 110 where you go, you better think 220.
Yeah. Russ was just mentioning that most countries don't use 110 anymore. You go anywhere in the world anymore, you better take an adapter with you. I took my 24-70, which is my primary lens, and usually with a full frame camera, that gets most of what I need. But I also took my 15-35 and my 70-200. And I did use both of those in different situations. There are some situations in waterfalls, you're in real tight areas, and you really need to get a wide angle and get in there and get the shots that you want. Tripod, of course, with most of our days were cloudy. So we were shooting longer exposures. I was also using my polarizer, which would give me longer exposure a little bit with the clouds, but also I'd use off and on my neutral density filter, which would then give me 10, 15, 20, 30-second exposures. Polarizer, like I said, is just a bit an absolute mess. I always say that with landscape photography, the polarizer is almost as important as the camera itself. Now, because of rain, not only the rain, but even if you don't have rain, a lot of these waterfalls you go to, when you get close to them, it's kicking up so much water, it's almost raining. So waterproof cover for your lenses and your camera, umbrella, rain jacket, rain pants for yourself to stay dry, and a cloth that you got with you that you can keep wiping the mist off of the front of your lens. And remember to keep checking your lens in those situations. You don't want to get back later and find you got water drops all over the front of your lens. I said, some of these waterfalls, it's a solid mist of rain the whole time. Activities in the interior. You go backpacking, hiking trails. There are several that we went out on and saw. Horseback riding. There's geothermal areas and pools, volcanic lakes, and waterfalls. Lagavadur. This is a backpacking location, trailhead. It's 55 kilometers is the length of the hike. And again, you go out hiking through the mountains, through the valleys, and it's pretty area. There's a started trailhead down in the middle there, and it's up on the hillside, some people along the trail. Pretty well marked trail, everything like that, you can go and hike around on. This is down in the valley. Again, you can see all the color to the mountains. That's just all the chemical makeup of the volcanic rock out there. There's another backpacking trailhead location. Off in the distance there, you can see people setting up We've got tents and everything set up out here. You can backpack and camp up in the mountains. But these are very popular areas for people to go into and hike around and explore. But like I say, it's a limited time during the summer. The rest of the time, you can't get to it. Horseback riding, we saw several times people out horseback riding. It has to be a lot of fun. Pardon me? Yeah, definitely the horses are really different. I got some pictures. I'll talk more about the horses when we get there. They're way different from the horses we have around here. There are some people horseback riding. I said their manes and tails all look like they just came out of a hair salon. Very, very pretty horses. Geothermal areas are areas that is just totally, completely volcanic area coming up. Pools of water, mud bubbling, and steam coming up out of the ground. Just really unique, interesting places. There's the whole hillsides. Now, one of the things I didn't mention, well, I think I get to it later. Super interesting places to go to out here. And again, this is all in the interior. So again, I would not pass up on going through the interior. There again, you can see all the steam coming up out of the ground. And you can walk right around. It's not like in the United States where you have to put fences up to tell people not be stupid enough to go and step into one of those pools of water. People know better. So you can just walk around all through the area. Take all the pictures you want. There's a picture of the road going up out of the valley. Again, you see people out walking all over the place. These are bubbling. I mean, it's boiling water. The Blue Lagoon, that's one of the first place we actually went to on our own when we first got there. And again, this is one of those boiling hot little lake areas. They've got a big hotel there with the saunas and the hot baths and stuff like that that people can go to. But super cool looking, real pretty, but hot water. Yeah. Yeah, kind of sort of the same type of thing. Yeah. Question was if the geothermals were sort of like the geothermal area in Yellowstone, and yeah, it is. But just a huge, huge, much bigger area. All the heat that Iceland generates is from geothermal activity. That's where all their heat for heaters and everything else comes from. Volcanic crater lakes. This one is the Nasa Polar Crater. And you can tell at one time, I mean, this was at one time a huge volcano that erupted and blew this whole area out. And then it filled with water. Very neat, very cool areas, but they're all over the place, just full of water. The glacier melt just seeps in from underground and above ground. And this is Strobaugh Lake. And this must have been several huge volcanic eruptions, because this is a big, huge area. And you can see there's areas that look like different areas that have erupted and blown up at different times. Again, you get an idea down near the bottom there. You see the road and a vehicle down there. So pretty, so interesting, but nothing lives out there. There you can see, well, this is more recent volcanic flow, more recent, probably in the last 100,000, couple of thousand years or so. But you can see where the flow came down the valley there and then stopped at the edge of what's now the edge of the lake there. Again, look at all the color in the mountains. Kalingabatten. That's the name of this lake here. Every once in a while, we'd see signs like this out in the areas traveling through, naming the lakes or mountains or something like that. Waterfalls, like I said, you come across these waterfalls right and left. It's just amazing. I mean, these are huge waterfalls. And the fact that all this water all through the country is flowing constantly. This is X-Larfoss. If it ends in F-O-S-S, that's usually a waterfall. Again, more waterfalls just everywhere out in the middle of nowhere. This valley here, all these different waterfalls. And we were actually lucky enough. We shot this one time during the day, then we went back late at night for sunset. And at one point, we were way up on the edge of the valley, up on the lip, and we hear this rumbling sound. And all of a sudden, we saw that those two in the middle, the little waterfalls, the one on the right, all of a sudden, we saw where the water, some boulders, big, huge rock slide in the area, totally changed the way the water was flowing out of there. We just happened to be there when it happened. And a lot of times you get right up next to you. So like I said, we had plenty of time to walk around all different angles, different places and everything at these waterfalls or any other location we stopped at. Lots of water. This would rival Niagara Falls completely. This one's real easy, High Foss waterfall. But you can see down through the layers of the mountainside there, all the layers of the history of creation through there. The outside perimeter, town's located mostly along the shoreline area, mostly close to 50 miles apart. So, like I mentioned, a lot of hay farms, sheep, horse ranches. I saw only one cattle ranch. I don't know why there's not more, but we only saw one place all of our travels that had cattle. Waterfalls off the mountains, lots of rock formations along the shore. Fishing, a big thing there. There's another, like I said, the white buildings with red or orange roofs. And you can see right above them all the still glacier snow up there. Really neat looking mountains, everything just really hard. Wildlife, I said Icelandic horses, sheep, reindeer in the winter. We didn't see any foxes. We didn't see any birds, puffins, Arctic terns, and swans. Not a whole lot else.
We didn't see any reindeer. I don't know where they're all at. We saw some when we were there.
They're probably up on the glaciers. Yeah, I would guess so. They like the cold weather. Like I said, we'd find whole herds of horses out in areas. Now, if you ever go there, these horses are very friendly. They want to be petted. You can go up to the fence area and they'll come over to be petted. But be careful because there is an electric line going all the way around their fence area. So if you really want a shock, get too close. But they're a lot shorter than American horses. My next door neighbors have 2 horses, and those horses are a lot bigger than these things are. And they've got the big mane, and like I say, it looks like it just came from a salon. They raise the horses more to sell to outside the country.
They're very restrictive on having any horses imported into the country.
Yeah.
Allow it whatsoever.
Yeah, you don't import any other horses. You're not allowed to. They don't want to wind up messing up their, yeah. But, you know, pretty horses. This lavender, these flowers were sometimes everywhere, acres and acres of it. And a lot of times we see the horses where they get side by side, and you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. But that happens a lot. There's a common thing that they did. Again, very pretty horses, but not very big. The sheep, most of the time, were just out running around in the middle of nowhere. And 2, 3, 4, 5 at a time, maybe, but not a whole herd of sheep. I don't know how the sheep herders collected them whenever they needed to. And I said, birds, Debbie, Arctic tern, Debbie shooting a lot of birds. Oh, by the way, Debbie was not able to make it tonight because she had surgery on one of her toes several weeks ago, and she's restricted to 6 weeks of laying down with her foot elevated and with strict requirements to not move. Waterfalls, I said, everywhere, all over the place, waterfalls, big ones, little ones, every size you can think of. This is Foss. I said it says F-O-S-S at the end. It's usually a waterfall. This one you could actually walk back behind the waterfall all the way around and out the other side. And good luck on pronouncing this one. Redlands Foss. Another one. Sometimes they're coming out and going into some rut. There's some area where the volcanic rock is split and they just go shooting downstream. This was a neat one too. A lot of people there. Foss waterfall. And you can actually see people at the very top on the right side. In the trail, you could actually walk all the way up to the top. This is one of my favorites. Such a pretty waterfall. I haven't been able to find a name of it yet. One of the things our guide did is every evening after we'd get to the hotel and everything, he'd kind of give us a list of some of the names of the places that we went during the day. Rock formations, this area here, big, huge cave on this side and on the other side. And then the rock formations off the shore. Lots of people. There's another one. This is the Yarhovlahi Peninsula. This was a cool spot. So, they're all black because it's all volcanic rock. Yep, it's all volcanic rock. And it's not even sand, it's little gravel. And this one, good luck on pronouncing it, Yarhovlahi Lighthouse. The mountains, I mean, they're just really rugged, hard mountains. You know, we're lucky with the clouds, the water. A lot of times along the shoreline, we're able to go out and walk around in areas. Super neat. Glacier breakoff. Got some of these glaciers, they come out, come down. They got the calving where it breaks off, goes into a river area, and you go out to the ocean. Yukosavan Lagoon. This is a bridge going over it. There's looking the other way at the bridge. And there's, you can see the icebergs getting ready to float out to the ocean. There's a boat going up. You see the glaciers in the background there. There's another spot, another area, more glaciers. Another one. You can see they picked up a lot of dirt. Some of the glacier rock there is real dirty, getting the water very dirty. So all these chunks eventually wind up floating out to the ocean. And once they wear down a little bit, they wind up washing up on shore sometimes. This is Diamond Beach. Again, it's black sand, black rock, and you get big chunks of ice floating up along the shore. Again, different ways to shoot it. Super interesting, these big chunks of ice though. The ring road around the island is open, but shuts down at threats of storm, especially in the winter. In the winter, you may have delays due to snow plows. In the wintertime, it's semi-daylight for only 4 to 5 hours. So you're really limited on your shooting time, but you can get northern lights, F clear. If it's cloudy, again, you don't get those. You get a lot of snow, so you're shooting in a lot of white shooting conditions. Heavy snowstorms may shut you down completely. Russ, when you're there, did you have anything to shut you down?
Actually, we did.
Yeah.
For a full day because they had like 30-foot waves on the southern part of the island. And we were on the northern part of the island on that loop.
Yeah.
And so it was shut down because of that. The daylight we were there in January, and the daylight during that time was about 6 hours of light.
Okay,
So you could eat breakfast and go out and shoot, and you still picked up the dawn.
good, good. Well, you said I couldn't hear. Russ was just saying he went in January and they had close to 6 hours worth of daylight, semi-daylight. But yeah, he was stuck one time for a whole day where they can't do anything because of storm. Heavy storms may shut you down. Like I said, temperature rarely gets below 5 degrees, mostly in the 35 to 45 area. But again, strong winds, horses and reindeer, but no birds in the winter.
If they shut down the roads there, you have an accident and the roads are shut down, insurance will not compensate you on the vehicle for having an accident.
Oh, wow.
You don't drive when they shut down the road.
Yeah. Okay, another thing Rush just added was that insurance will not cover you if you have an accident while driving there. So they do shut down the roads. If there's any problems or anything like that, don't go driving through it. Other considerations if you're going out on your own and even as a group, whichever, take a notepad and pen to document locations and dates. I said we got quite a bit of notification on where we went, but not every place. And I wish I would had a notepad. I could have written stuff down and where we were and stuff like that, date and time. So then I could look back at my metadata and say, oh, okay, this is where we were at this date and time. Medications for a variety of possible needs. I never get sick. But one of the gals from Australia, Carrie, and I, at one of these little small 7-Eleven places, we bought some apples. I bought 2 apples, she bought 1 apple. She ate her apple, I ate my apple, I ate the second apple the next day, and then we were both sicker than dogs. I have not been that sick in my entire life. I probably haven't thrown up in 30-some years. I was getting my 30 years worth in a couple of days. I was so sick, shivering, completely shivering and shaking. Yeah. So I would say don't eat any of the fruit. Take some medications, especially for food poisoning. I'm sure that's what we wound up with. But man, and I spent one day as we traveled. I spent a good part of the day just sleeping in the back seat of our travel van. Didn't even get out. So have different medications for stuff you may need. Unexpected things you will see in Iceland. Graffiti on buildings. Every once in a while, going through towns, we'd see some graffiti on a building. Wasn't really expected. Again, like I said, very unpronounceable names or streets, towns, and locations. People obeying traffic laws. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm not really sure. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure what their population is. Yeah. Now we did see here and there Subways, KFC, Domino's Pizza, Taco Bell, TGI Fridays, restaurants, not a bunch of them, but especially Subways and KFCs. Things you won't see in Iceland, trash off the side of the road. I mean, anywhere you drive around here, you're seeing trash all over the road. Stop signs. I think we saw 3 stop signs the whole time we were there. All you see are yield signs. People are smart enough. They come to an intersection. They slow down, look both ways, and then drive through. It's not like here where stop sign is just a suggestion. You won't see any police hardly at all. The only police officer we saw was the one stationed at the roadway right by that volcanic eruption area to block the road off to keep people from driving through there. We saw one other police car parked off the side of the road at a house at one point. But that was it. One thing you won't see is a lot of crime. Iceland is one of the most crime-free countries in the world. Have a great time, whatever you wind up doing. This is Carrie and Raylene, the two gals from Australia. And like I said, we all got along great. Everybody was able to work together on shooting pictures and helping each other out and looking out for each other. And when I was sick as could be, different people were giving me all sorts of different medications to try to welcome me back to the real world.
Population of Iceland is 387,758 people.
Okay, for people who can hear that, population of Iceland is just under 400,000 people. Any other questions? I think I'm really good on time.
So Rick, I have a question.
Wake up.
You said that the
Yeah.
tour for 13 days was 7,000 plus, which included.
Yeah, I mean, I would think it would take you probably, if you tried to do it without stopping, maybe 3 days. I know just driving through the interior there from the south side to the north side, we spent an entire day driving, but that was including several stops at different waterfalls and stuff like that. But that was just one shooting through in one area. But
Okay.
you can go all the way around, and you could probably, I mean, if someone really wanted to, and I've thought of doing it myself, where I fly out there, just drive around the ring road and have ideas where I'd want to stop, hotels, stuff like that. Now, one of the tricks, when I went to Costa Rica a number of years ago, I went into AAA and I said, okay, I want to see where your guided tour group goes to in Costa Rica and the hotels you stay at. And he said, okay, yeah, we can set you up with a guided tour. No, I don't want the guided tour. I just want to know the names of the hotels you're staying, because then I know if it's something that AAA is using, then it's a good hotel. So we flew in, rented a car, and then drove all through those different areas, staying at the AAA recommended hotels. But yeah, along the coastline, everything like that, there's scattered towns with hotels and stuff like that. But yeah, realistically, I mean, even like I say, if people are going to Glacier National Park, I tell them to allow 5 days, just because there's so much to see.
So,
But yeah, I mean, if you really want to just drive through and not make that many stops and stuff like that, or little side trips, I imagine you could drive around it in 3 days.
okay, so the 7,000 plus the travel, airfare, and what did you wind up spending?
You've got all these little quicks and everything.
Yeah,
Especially during the winter, you're not gonna go very fast.
no,
But during the summer, you could get up to 55. That would give you, but you're stopping to take pictures.
Yeah.
Spend 3 or 4 days.
yeah.
That's a lot of time taking.
Yeah. Yeah, I would not want to do it very fast. I mean, again, you go all the way to Iceland. Heck, why make it a speed trip? Take your time, travel through, and especially when there's only one road, you can't get lost. Just keep going in one direction on that road. Yeah. Yeah.
Compared to what I got to see in the wintertime, which is mostly snow.
Yeah,
Ice
yeah.
Is what I got
Yeah.
to see. But in some of the areas, it was quite surprising that on the north side of the island, it wasn't always entirely covered with snow.
Yeah.
Which I was kind of amazed. I would have thought it would have been snow everywhere, but it's not.
Yeah. Well, you've got that, like I said, mentioned before, that current that comes up from the equator all along the coastline area and then gets up and goes through Iceland and Greenland and keeps it a bit warmer than you would actually think it would normally be. Fine.
That Greenland is about 800 and some miles, and you want to stop and do stuff and eat stuff. So it's like about a week, 7 days to go all the way around. Then on the west side of the island, where Jules Verne wrote that story, Drained in the Center of the Earth, there's a lot of volcanic places there. And that's a little extra if you haven't done.
Yeah, there's so much to stop and see. I mean, even the ones I was showing you, there were a lot of times we just pull over and stop in an area where we could get off just for some little waterfall or one area or something like that, or some of these farms and stuff that were just really cool. The museums, the churches, different little side trips you can take. There's so much to do. And that coastline, like I said, during the summer is nice and green and pretty. In the winter, yeah, it's white and pretty.
You know, it was also surprising in Reykjavik. You talked about a little bit of graffiti, but in Reykjavik, you go around all the town and they have all this artwork that's been plastered on the buildings.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to see all of that.
Yeah.
That they've sat there and they've done.
Yeah, it's a totally different world, different whole thought process and everything else.
Did you ever get to see the White Sand Beach?
The White Sand Beach?
Yeah.
No, I've never even heard of it. Oh, wow. Yeah, I've never heard of White Sand Beach.
Yeah.
Everything we saw was black.
Everything talked about seeing seismic activity there is identical to the down in Hawaii.
Oh,
Even the
yeah.
top of the lava.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Couple of questions from Zoom. Rick, what was your total expenses for the 15 days?
Oh, man.
Oh, that,
Well,
somewhere between ouch and boing.
I think probably I would guess maybe 11,000 some area, because it was like I said, the tour was like just under 8,000, and the flight, I don't remember what it was, but over 1,000 there, and the couple rooms that we stayed in. It's nice to have where we were able to split the costs on stuff like that. So it's nice to be able to have other people go with you. We were trying to get more people from the camera club, but couldn't talk anybody into it. But it really wasn't bad for the time we were there. And like I say, it's an iconic trip. The other one I'd like to do is Machu Picchu. But yeah, this has been on my list for a long time to do, and it was definitely worth it.
Another question. What was the highlight of your trip?
Probably the interior. I mean, it was so different. It was such a different world than you've ever been in. And such the scenery and stuff like that for volcanic rock and water and ice. You just, I mean, you saw the one lagoon there with icebergs floating in it. Yeah, the interior, I'd say, was the one place I liked the best. That whole interior area, even though it was rocky and shaky, and I never wanted to get on a 4-wheel drive vehicle the rest of my life after that. But you know, I've recovered, and it was definitely worth it. I would suggest anybody going there definitely take a tour that would take you through the interior. Any other questions?
Did you get to go in any of the ice caverns?
No, we were not able to do any ice caverns. Any of the icebergs and stuff in July during the summer are pretty high up in elevation and no way to really get there. And all the stuff along the shoreline and everything that would maybe have been areas where they would have ice caverns in the winter didn't exist in the summer.
All right, let's hear it for Ray.
Thank you.